Hey guys, Tbull. Today we got a game in the Mogami. Alright, I got a Tago on there. That's an offensive build. Slot 2 perk increases damage, increases fire chance, but also increases the incoming damage that we take when people shoot at us. So, kind of a high risk, high reward build. If you don't have that one, and I don't believe that character will ever come back, so if you don't have it, you don't have it at this point in time. But Macao would be my recommendation. You can put on Yamamoto if you want, if you're feeling bold, but the lack of the Ingenious perk in slot 1 makes it a little bit difficult, alright? Now, the Turtverse onerous, and this line, and Mogami in particular, if you're not paying attention, you get shot in the side, you will blow up very quickly. In fact, I do remember my first ever Mogami game lasted about 20 seconds, alright? I was deploying horizontally, someone got me in the side, and I blew up. So I was like, oh Christ, this is a little bit more difficult than I anticipated. Uh, so, that will happen to you. It doesn't happen to me a lot, but I'm paying attention to what I'm doing usually, and the fact that we use Ingenious on both of these builds means that I can always say, okay, I got one guy targeting me, I know who that is. Alright, I can deal with that. Oh, okay, I got another guy targeting me. Not sure who that is. I better play a little bit more defensively until we get safe again. So, Megami, one of my favorite ships to play. It always surprises me you don't see him that much. Again, aside from the difficulty factor, it is a great cruiser. And it's probably one of my higher scoring cruisers if we ever get our stats in here, which I believe are coming soon. Maybe we'll check out the performance. But it's got a graceful, flowing style. It's a lot of fun to play. Got 2 rearward firing sets of torps on both sides, so you can launch torps off of one, flip around, and get the other side going quite easily. And that goes along with the promoted playstyle, which is kind of what we call a kiting. We're usually sailing away from the enemy and engaging them. We're going to park and use these islands whenever we can, but if we're spotted and we're got people shooting back at us, the Megami is comfortable in that role as well, as long as you're capable of saying, okay, here's who's shooting me at any given time. I can dodge. You got to keep them at distance. Get those zoning torps sending their way. Hit them with the fires over and over again. And you can just grind down anything, right? Mogami is a ship that can beat anything in the game as long as you're playing it carefully and as intended. Okay, so that's why I really like to play the Mogami. All right, so what are we doing here? One of the newer maps, can't remember the name, but we got to capture the base mode game. And this will have some interesting aspects of that game mode, some strategy we can talk about. But we're just going to be kind of staying alive and putting up gradual damage over the course of a game. It's going to be, can't remember what we wind up with, about 170, 180,000 damage, somewhere along that. But it's just a gradual application of pressure on the team here. You can see the hood. We don't want battleships pushing too far forward, so we're trying to whittle him down. And Mogami's great at just kind of grinding down battleships over, a 1, 2, 3 minute span. You just keep shooting them with the HE, and you'll set some fires. That'll start to wear them down, and then the hard-hitting HE shells themselves will do the rest of the work. So very hard for the battleships to deal with them, especially if they're not going to shoot back at you, which we're, of course, trying to limit by remaining undercover. So got the hood there. Like it said, it takes 2-3 minutes, but eventually you'll get them off the board. So the blue team, we're just kind of hanging out in the base for the most part, which is a little bit, it's dangerous to cede map control. We got one battleship all the way to the east, and then the destroyers snuck around the backside of them. It looks like he's probably getting chased by some cruiser over there. So not the best deployment here in this game. It's not going to be looking like we're going to be able to win it for quite a while. But what we're doing, we're just trying to exert pressure on this side. You can see there we do use an AP occasionally. We did have a broadside to Tago. It's about 10 kilometers away. Worth firing, right? We didn't hit the Citadel there, but we got a pretty decent shot. As soon as he begins to angle, though, and as the distance increases, the AP will be less and less effective. So almost always in this ship, I'm shooting HE shells, but broadside cruisers that are kind of point blank, short to medium distances. Worth firing at the Citadel, worth trying to hit it with the AP. Occasionally, it's quite effective, but longer ranges, just always stick to the HE. All right, so we're chasing the Otago off. We have the advantage in this fight just due to the fact that we have 2 rearward torps on each side. He's got 1 rearward and 1 forward facing torpedo. So we can pump out more torpedoes to make the waters more hazardous for him. He's got a Friesland backing him up here and another couple ships behind him as well. So we kind of got to be careful about where we're going. If we continue to go west, more and more of those ships to the north of us will have shots. We don't want that, so we elect to turn east, which will keep that island between us and hopefully the Friesland and whatever else is behind him. And we want to just kind of limit, all right, how many people can shoot us at any time, all right? So, we got to be very careful here. There's the Miyoko. He's behind that Friesland as well. And the Sinop is the main threat, no doubt about it. That ship, if he shoots us in the side, especially, 12 kilometers in, he's going to start to become fairly accurate. That's a one-shottable ship. So Miyoko, Atago, sure they can do some damage to us, but if we're careful, they're not going to be able to wreck us. Friesland, annoying, but we can hit him hard, just as hard as he can hit us back. Sinop, a little bit more difficult. All right, the Russian battleships, they got the unique damage controls where they get a set amount of them, but they're quick cycling. So until you can cycle through those, fire damage is usually going to be fairly limited. Most players will just keep putting it out as quick as they can get it. Smaller superstructures, Sinop's a little bit bigger than some of the Russians, but not the easiest ship to hit and pretty good armor overall. So Sinop, fairly dangerous, but if we can fire free shots at them like this without taking any incoming damage, we'll go ahead and do that and see if we can cycle through those damage control parties. But using terrain, limiting how many people can shoot you in any given situation, that's going to be one of the keys to this ship. And really, in general, you want to be focusing on that, utilizing the cover and keeping the fights as close to 1v1 as you can, or even numerically advantageous if you can get some teammates in your position to support. And now he's not really focused on us, but we definitely don't want him to shoot us in the side, so we're moving forward as quick as we can here. Megami's got a good flowing style to it. It's not the fastest cruiser known to man, so you do have to keep that in mind. You can spec it to make it a little bit faster, and I typically run it. And this build is not going to be as mobile as the Macau build, which I'll sometimes use, but you just got to keep that in mind as well. So Atago, we're continuing to try and free him up. The team's finally moving out of the base. They're kind of exploring out here in the west. But what you can note is Red's got control of the middle of the map, and they're spread out. Also keep in mind that we do have the cruiser on their base. That's going to be important as well. I forgot to mention that as he entered the base. I believe it's about 2.5 minutes total time spent on the base, which means they're not generating the passive 2 points every 5 seconds while he's on there. Sure, they'll kill him. I mean, he's surrounded by red ships. So from that perspective, we're going to lose 80 points. But in the background, that play does establish a bit of a lead. So in the end, that's actually going to factor into how we want to approach this game here. And that's going to cause me to prefer to be a little bit more defensive in my positioning as well. Sinop looks like he's going to eat a torp there. I think they run out either right before we hit him or he dodged. And then they ran out in between then and when we looked again. But as you can see, they're no longer in the screen there, so almost got them though. And that's the torpedoes. The theory with the torpedoes on the ship is we're throwing them into areas, right, that we're expecting to be fighting ships. We got all these cruisers, battleships, destroyers over on this side of the west, west side of the map in that area. So we just keep throwing the torpedoes over there as much as possible. I do want to wrap up one side or the other, though. We do have the battleship in the east who's kind of been over there. He's fighting the Hipper. We want to support this. We want to relieve the pressure that Red has established, all right? Because when they control the middle of the map and they're spread out across the whole thing, they kind of control the whole board. Getting rid of that Hipper, they still have the North Carolina, who's basically north of me, and I'm very nervous, especially watching this back here. If he comes around the island and catches me sitting here broadside like this, you can definitely kill us in one shot. But I'm definitely taking him into account here. If you look at the map, the positions, they basically have a 90-degree, angle on me, where the North Carolina is directly in front of me. This guy's directly to the side, and I'm hoping that we don't have to fight them both at the same time, because that's going to be hard to defend against. There's the North Carolina, though. He's more focused on the battleship that's been over there, and that's now rushing him, which is good for us, because it allows us some time. We don't get the crossfire shot, and now the ship to the Sinop to the west is now removed himself from firing, or the ability to fire on us by putting that island in between us. So a little bit of a break there. North Carolina now, at this point in time, I'm really worried, especially after he takes that shot there. I'm worried that the North Carolina is going to ram the King George. This is a major trade in HP. You can see the North Carolina's got, what, about 20,000 HP. King George at this point in time, probably 50, 60,000. And you can see there, we're tied in terms of ships, but, you know, due to the, we got a destroyer all the way to the north. You can just kind of write him off. I'm over here. I don't want to be making that trade. I mean, you don't want to make that trade anyways. 5,000 HP for 50,000 HP, whatever it is. But going down that ship, it just kind of allows them to regain control of that side of the map if possible. So I was nervous there. Luckily, the ram didn't happen, and that's a good thing. Even if he's low on health, that's another set of guns, and we're going to need all the help we can get here. Now we're starting to establish a good lead, though, and you can see from like 5 minutes ago when Red had control of the whole board, we've just kind of taken it sequentially, one ship at a time, get them off the board, continue to lean on the enemy team, continue to pressure them, and we've kind of taken back control of the game. So now we have the ship lead. Friesland kills the Hipper there. It's tightening up again, but take a look at the score. We're up by about 120 points. So even if we lose a battleship, we'll still have the lead, and that's going back to the fact that we were on the base, right? Anytime we can get some scoring like that, it's a good, valuable play. It's kind of the tiebreaker later in the game. So I don't like the fact that the cruiser necessarily traded his life for it, but the points that he did get from earlier are coming into play at this point in time. And keep in mind, because we have that tiebreaker built in now, that's kind of why we're playing really defensively here. We don't have to be pressuring the enemy base. We don't have to be forced to kill everyone on the enemy team. They have to do something to flip the score around. So they need to start killing us. We got the CNOP in front of us here. We still got the Friesland. He's not spotting me, obviously, so he's probably behind this island, or he's moving back northward, potentially to maybe defend their base or whatever he's doing. So CNOP here, he's got about 10,000 health. We got 30,000 health. As long as he doesn't hit me in the side, I'm not afraid of him. We can kick the crap out of the CNOP. So we'll just go ahead and engage at this point in time, get him off the board, and increase the score even more, which is going to just kind of seal the deal on the game. So that's the gameplay here. If he had a lot more health, we'd be launching torpedoes here, but he's only going to be able to survive this kind of attack for, I don't know, 1 or 2 salvos. You can see he's on fire. Maybe he's out of damage controls like we were talking about earlier. Now we've been applying some pressure throughout the game on him, and down he goes there. So we've increased the score up to just shy of 170 at this point in time. We got 40,000 health to start, so we're probably about 4.5 times our ship's HP and damage, if I'm doing the math correctly. No, 4 times. Yeah, what am I talking about? 4 times our ship's HP and damage. I mean, that's a dang good score. Anytime you can do that with a cruiser, the effect that you're having on the enemy team, even if we're killed here, basically we've killed 4 equivalents of our own ship in terms of their HP. So that's an effective game there. I think we'll continue to add a little bit more damage if I remember. Now that's what the Megami is capable of. If you can keep it alive for the full game, and you can keep it in position so that you're firing your guns basically every time they're reloaded, for the majority of the game, the damage will pile up. You can see 14 fires there. That's not uncommon. And each salvo can get from anywhere from 5 to 10,000 raw damage if you're hitting them in the superstructures or other vulnerable parts of the ship. So Mogami, very capable of high offense. So that's, never been disputed. The problem I think people have with the Mogami is it is very dangerous. But if you're playing with an awareness of what's going on, and you're utilizing the cover, you're utilizing the ability of the ship to kind of dodge shots coming at them at range at least, then you can survive. If you get hit with the Megami, sometimes the game just ends. That's just, you could say that about a lot of cruisers, of course. But if you keep it alive, good things will happen. So you can see we're burning this guy down. It definitely causes some of the battleships pain and consternation. But we've seen multiple battleships this game even where they have 3 fires. If you have 3 fires on you, you're not specking for fire prevention builds, which is what you should be doing at this point in time. If you're using that slot 1 accuracy perk that increases your how much damage you're taking from fires. If you're not using the slot 3 one, which will limit it to 3 fires per ship, that's your own fault. It reduces the damage as well. There's a legendary perk that deals with fires. I use that. I think it puts all the fires out automatically if you get 3 of them. Those are all great ways to deal with the fire damage. So adjust the build, you do fine. All right, that's a look at the Mogami for you guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. If you did, please hit the thumbs up. New to the channel, consider subscribing. Lots of World of Warships coming for you all the time. Questions, comments, leave below. Love to hear from you, and we'll see y'all later. All right, peace.